The rental house in Martha's Vineyard was everything my sister Madison had promised. Sprawling oceanfront property, designer furnishings, and enough space for what she called an intimate gathering of successful people. I pulled my rental car into the circular driveway, dwarfed by the collection of luxury vehicles already assembled. Tesla Model S, BMW X7, Mercedes G-Wagon, and Madison's latest acquisition, a Porsche Cayenne. At 29, I'd grown accustomed to being the family disappointment at these gatherings. While Madison had built her marketing consultancy into a seven-figure business, I'd chosen what our parents diplomatically called public service. What they didn't mention was that it paid significantly less than my sister's corporate success. Madison greeted me at the door, her smile bright but strained. "Katie, you made it." She air-kissed both cheeks, a habit she'd picked up during her MBA program. "Everyone's on the deck. I've told them all about my little sister and her dedicated government work." The way she said dedicated government work made it sound like volunteer dog walking. The deck overlooked Nantucket Sound, where Madison's guests were already deep into their second round of craft cocktails and networking conversations. I recognized the type immediately: successful professionals in their 30s, discussing market strategies and acquisition deals with the casual confidence that came from substantial bank accounts. "Everyone, this is my sister Katie," Madison announced. "The one I told you about who works for the state." A woman in designer athleisure turned with polite interest. "Oh, how nice. What department?" "State Department," I clarified, but Madison jumped in before I could elaborate. "She handles administrative stuff. Very important, but you know how government work is. Lots of paperwork, procedures, that sort of thing." Madison's laugh was just a little too bright. "Not everyone can be an entrepreneur." The group nodded with that particular brand of patronizing kindness reserved for people they considered beneath their professional level. A man in a polo shirt, Madison had introduced him as the CEO of a tech startup, extended his hand. "That's great. Public service is so stable. Must be nice having those benefits and regular hours. No stress of running your own company, dealing with investors, making real decisions." "Right?" I said neutrally, accepting his handshake. Madison beamed. "Exactly. Katie's always been the practical one. Very risk-averse. She likes knowing exactly what her paycheck will be every month." Risk-averse. I almost smiled at that assessment, considering I'd spent the last 3 years coordinating security protocols in some of the world's most volatile regions. "What kind of administrative work?" asked another woman, clearly making polite conversation. "Just basic government stuff," Madison answered before I could respond. "You know, filing, data entry, maybe some scheduling. Nothing too complex, but it keeps her busy." Filing and data entry. I sipped my wine and let my sister's mischaracterization wash over me. There was no point correcting her in front of her CEO friends who were already losing interest in the conversation. "Well, someone has to do the basic work," the startup CEO said charitably. "Can't all be visionaries and risk-takers. The system needs its worker bees." Worker bees. I felt my secure phone vibrate against my hip. The device Madison's friends probably assumed was just a regular smartphone if they noticed it at all. The conversation moved on to more interesting topics. Market projections, expansion strategies, a potential IPO that someone was considering. I found a quiet corner of the deck and discreetly checked my secure device. Priority alert from the operations center. Developing situation in Southeast Asia. All senior diplomatic security personnel to maintain heightened awareness. Potential need for immediate deployment. I glanced up at Madison's party, where someone was now discussing the challenges of scaling a business internationally. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Katie looks bored," I heard Madison whisper to her friend. "Government work doesn't really prepare you for these kinds of conversations. She's probably more comfortable talking about, I don't know, lunch schedules and office supplies." Lunch schedules and office supplies. While I monitored geopolitical crises that could reshape international relations, my secure phone buzzed again. This time it was a direct message from the deputy chief. "Henderson, we may need you for emergency consultation tonight. Stand by." I looked out at the Sound, watching boats navigate the evening waters, and wondered how much longer I could maintain the fiction that I was just another government filing clerk. The evening progressed with predictable rhythms. Madison's friends shared success stories over increasingly expensive wine, while I nursed a single glass and managed my secure communications from the corner of the deck. Every few minutes, someone would make polite conversation with the government worker, their tone suggesting they were performing an act of charity. "So Katie," said Jennifer, a woman who apparently ran a boutique investment firm, "what's it like working for such a big bureaucracy? Must be frustrating dealing with all that red tape and inefficiency." "It has its challenges," I replied diplomatically. "I imagine. I could never handle that kind of environment. All those procedures and approvals just to get anything done. Give me the private sector any day. When I want something to happen, I make it happen." Madison nodded enthusiastically. "That's exactly what I love about running my own business. Complete autonomy. Katie's always been more comfortable with structure. Having someone else make the big decisions. Structure." My secure phone had been buzzing steadily for the past hour with increasingly urgent updates about a rapidly developing international crisis. 3 different embassy security chiefs had requested my direct input on threat assessments. "Nothing wrong with preferring stability," added the startup CEO whose name I'd learned was Derek. "Some people are built for leadership and risk-taking, others are more suited to supporting roles. Takes all kinds. Supporting roles. As if coordinating multi-million-dollar security operations across hostile territories was equivalent to answering phones in a customer service center." "Exactly." Madison raised her glass. "Katie's always been the reliable one. Never any drama, never any big ambitions. Just steady, consistent work. It's actually kind of admirable." Admirable. The way she said it made it sound like I'd chosen to remain in elementary school. My secure phone buzzed with a priority message that made my blood run cold. The situation in Southeast Asia was escalating rapidly. Intelligence suggested a coordinated attack on multiple diplomatic facilities was imminent. The deputy chief was requesting immediate consultation from all senior security specialists. I excused myself and stepped inside the house, finding a quiet room where I could respond to the crisis developments. The next 20 minutes were spent coordinating with field agents, reviewing threat assessments and providing strategic recommendations that could potentially save lives. When I returned to the deck, the conversation had shifted to vacation plans and luxury purchases. "Just bought a place in Aspen," Derek was saying. "Nothing too crazy, just a little ski-in ski-out cabin. Sometimes you need to reward yourself for taking big risks and building something meaningful." "Absolutely," agreed Jennifer. "That's the difference between entrepreneurial thinking and employee mentality. We understand that success requires investment and vision." Madison spotted me returning. "Katie. Perfect timing. We were just talking about investment strategies. Though I suppose on a government salary you're probably more focused on like savings accounts and maybe some conservative mutual funds." Conservative mutual funds. My investment portfolio, managed by the same firm that handled other senior diplomatic personnel, was performing quite well. But Madison's friends didn't need to know that. "Something like that," I said. "See, that's smart though," Jennifer said in that patronizing tone I was growing to hate. "When you're not making entrepreneurial income, you have to be really careful with money. Can't afford to take the kinds of risks we take." Derek nodded sagely. "Different risk tolerance levels. When you're used to guaranteed government paychecks, the idea of variable income probably seems terrifying." Variable income. My compensation package included hazard pay for international assignments that probably exceeded Derek's startup salary, but I wasn't about to explain that to Madison's networking circle. My secure phone buzzed again. This time it was a direct call from the deputy chief himself. "I need to take this," I said, stepping away from the group. "Work calling on vacation?" Madison laughed to her friends. "See what I mean about government inefficiency? Probably some filing deadline or paperwork emergency." I answered the call in the kitchen out of earshot from the deck party. "Henderson, this is Deputy Chief Morrison. We need you to coordinate the emergency response team for the Southeast Asia situation. How quickly can you be operational?" "I'm at a family gathering on Martha's Vineyard, but I can establish secure communications immediately." "Outstanding. We're sending a mobile command unit to your location. Should arrive within the hour." Mobile command unit. To Martha's Vineyard. To Madison's exclusive rental house party. "Sir, perhaps there's a more discreet location." "Negative. Time is critical. Lives are at stake. We'll establish operations on site. As I ended the call, I heard Madison's voice drifting in from the deck. The thing about Katie is she's just so basic. Sweet girl, but no real ambition or vision. Perfect for government work, really. In about 45 minutes, her basic sister was going to be coordinating international crisis response from her rented vacation house. The first sign something was happening came when the local police cars began blocking road access to the property. Madison's friends noticed the flashing lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows, their cocktail conversations trailing off into confused murmurs. What's all that about? Derek wondered aloud, stepping closer to the window. Before anyone could speculate further, the sound of helicopters grew audible overhead. Not just one helicopter. Multiple aircraft, their rotors cutting through the evening air with military precision. Madison appeared beside me, her face tight with concern. Katie, do you know what's happening? This is supposed to be a quiet neighborhood. I checked my secure phone. The mobile command unit was 2 minutes out. There might be some government activity in the area, I said carefully. Government activity? Jennifer's voice carried a note of alarm. What kind of government activity? That's when the motorcade arrived. Black SUVs with tinted windows, moving in formation down the previously quiet residential street. The vehicles pulled into Madison's circular driveway with choreographed precision, their occupants immediately establishing a security perimeter around the house. Madison stared through the window in horror. Those are federal agents. In our driveway. Katie, what is happening? Before I could answer, men in dark suits with obvious earpieces were approaching the house. The party had gone completely silent, everyone pressed against the windows watching the surreal scene unfold. The front door opened without ceremony, and Deputy Chief Morrison himself stepped inside, flanked by his security detail. Ms. Henderson, he addressed me directly, ignoring the stunned faces around the room. We've established secure communications in the mobile unit outside. The secretary is standing by for your briefing. Madison's mouth was opening and closing without sound. Her CEO friends looked like they'd been flash-frozen in place. Henderson. Derek finally managed. But you said your name was Katie. Catherine Henderson, Deputy Chief Morrison clarified, still focused on me. Senior Strategic Security Coordinator, one of our most experienced crisis management specialists. We need her expertise immediately. Jennifer found her voice first. Senior Strategic? But Madison said she was in filing and data entry. Morrison's expression shifted to something approaching incredulity. Filing and data entry? Ms. Henderson coordinates security operations for diplomatic facilities across 3 continents. She's been instrumental in preventing no fewer than 7 international incidents in the past 18 months. Madison was staring at me as if I'd sprouted wings. Katie, what is he talking about? Ma'am, Morrison continued, your sister currently holds one of the highest security clearances in the State Department. She's been personally commended by the Secretary of State on multiple occasions for her strategic analysis and crisis management capabilities. Derek looked like he might be sick. But, we were just talking about, you said she was basic. Basic. Morrison's tone suggested he found this assessment fascinating. Ms. Henderson's last assignment involved coordinating the evacuation of an embassy under hostile fire while simultaneously managing diplomatic negotiations with 4 different governments. I wouldn't call that basic. The mobile command center outside was fully operational now, satellite dishes deployed, communications arrays humming with activity. Through the window we could see technicians establishing what was clearly a temporary nerve center for international operations. Madison sank into a chair. All this time, you let us think. You never asked, I said quietly. You told everyone what you thought I did. The next 6 hours transformed Madison's vacation rental into the epicenter of international crisis management. Her luxury party space became a secure operations center where I coordinated the successful prevention of what could have been a catastrophic diplomatic incident. Madison's CEO friends watched in stunned silence as world leaders called my secure line, as intelligence briefings were delivered to the House, and as I provided strategic guidance that quite literally prevented an international conflict. The aftermath was swift and devastating for those who'd dismissed me. Derek's startup lost potential government contracts when word spread that he'd insulted a senior State Department official. Jennifer's investment firm suffered when clients learned she'd mocked someone with access to international market intelligence. Madison's professional network crumbled as the story spread through their circles. How she'd spent years misrepresenting her own sister's critical government role as filing and data entry. Her credibility in business never recovered. The vacation house owner terminated Madison's lease early when the property became associated with emergency diplomatic operations. Her perfect Martha's Vineyard week became a cautionary tale about assumptions and family dynamics. I never attended another family gathering where my profession was the subject of discussion. I was usually managing actual crises that affected global stability, not listening to entrepreneurs discuss their vision over expensive wine. The mobile command center left behind only tire tracks on the gravel driveway, but the lesson was permanent. Madison's basic sister had just coordinated international policy from her rented vacation house, while the successful entrepreneurs watched helplessly from the sidelines. The security clearance came with its burdens, but watching my sister's assumptions crumble wasn't one of them.